we will see a lot of that. People are going to try and look younger and act younger because they realize they must connect with this generation that is going to be able to sway the vote.
And you're here for it all.
I am here for it. Absolutely. There are some drug lords in there that just need
Come
to...
on, Nerima. Statement of fact from you?
Drug lords are there. We know there are drug lords in our cabinet. Now we are going to see how the president is going to maneuver.
I'm curious to understand that.
Because now he won't have anybody to shake hands with. He won't have anybody to negotiate with. He must perform. I'm sure there are people who are encouraging them to, who is going to take over, who's going to... I think as a family, they should just reflect on themselves and for once think about themselves.
Tired of the same old shopping experience? Step into a smarter way to shop with Whiteson Group, Kenya's go-to online store for quality you can trust. From gadgets and homeware to everyday essentials, we deliver convenience right to your door. Fast shopping, secure payments, and top-notch customer care, all in one place. Visit whitesongroup.com today. Whiteson Group, simple, reliable, delivered.
And you're just in time for Richard Mwenja exclusive. Yet again, we are honored to have you on board. Of course, during an unfortunate moment for the country following the passing on of former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But we're here at least to rope in some sense on what this means for the country's present and future in leadership, politics, democracy, you name it. And I'm here to have this conversation with one of the people who've really unpacked Raila's political history so far, his contribution to the country, and also his mentorship so far to the young leaders. That is Executive Director, Siasa Place, Madam Nerima Wako. Nerima, good to see you. How are you doing today? I know that's a very, weird question for me to ask you, but you are a person who interacted with Raila at a personal level, I could say that. But just tell me, what were some of your initial thoughts and feelings following the pronouncement of his demise?
Shock. It's a sad day for Kenya. Somber still, disbelief as well. And even though, we all know that we will all end up dying.
Sure.
It's hard to believe that he's gone. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's one of those things where he has been such a huge element of our history, of our past, of our present, that to just imagine him not being there is difficult. So even coming here, I've seen people walking with branches, putting branches on their cars. So the whole country just feels different today.
And just to be fair to our followers who, it's in the public gallery, the Workers' family have been great friends with Odinga's family. So you are now trying to grapple with this new reality. Just how much of a blow has this been to your family at a personal level, Nerima?
At a personal level, I would say growing up, remember seeing him even in the house, very close with specifically my uncle. So I know that he has definitely lost a good friend, someone who they have treasured moments, brokered peace deals, not just for Kenya, but for several countries in the region. There are countries that have relied on Honorable Raila to be able to have peace, and he was part of their history. And I know that to have a friend for that long, you're talking about men who are in their 80s. True. Can you imagine?
80?
Yeah, they've been friends for longer than we've existed, and for even longer than the country has existed. So it's definitely going to be a huge gap for him, for the family, and even just missing how he speaks his rhetorics. He's someone who is a very good storyteller. And even when you're in a room with him, you're almost dazed because of how he tells stories. So that's definitely, we're going to miss his energy, the enigma.
And you've rightly put it. He is a man who had this character, this persona, sense of wit, and you could feel his presence in any room. And let's make a bit of correlation. When you look at present-day leaders, especially the young leaders, oftentimes they want to build this character and persona out of clout chasing. But Nerima, from where you sit, do you think that's a sustainable way to achieve even that character that Odinga built all this while?
No, it's not a sustainable way. You know, the character that he is, a lot of young people are remembering the present, the choices that he has made most recently. But many don't know that he wasn't even able to witness his own mother's burial because he was arrested. He was in jail. Many don't realize the intensity of the torture. You know, we are seeing right now people being abducted. We have seen some activists getting tortured. This was an everyday, normal occurrence under Moi, where they actually had torture houses and cells, and they really tried to torture him to death, but he still managed to survive. So he built a name for himself, even though he had a father that was already in politics and had a name of himself. I think what young people can learn from his life is the fact that he was able to build an identity over a very long period of time, standing on rights, on democracy, fighting injustice, and look at his whole life rather than the end of his life. So when we look at that and you're able to balance that, there's a lot more good that he's managed to bring to Kenya than the bad choices that people remember and see in the more recent days.
His goodness superseded his flaws.
I believe so.
All right, Nerima. But then again, now there's this vacuum that has been left behind. We are talking about someone who would half the time hold governments into account. But you, as one of the Gen Zs, I mean, part of this Gen Z revolution, do you take solace in the fact that even with the demise of Raila Odinga last year, we witnessed the birth of a new generation who are now gonna advance his works and beliefs?
Yeah, I believe that it's a moment we should be proud of as young people standing up on rights, on the Constitution, and being able to carry that baton forward. For him being able to rest knowing that Kenya is in safe hands when people don't necessarily only have to look up to one superhero to take the charge, but each and every one of us picking up that responsibility. I think it's such a pivotal moment that now it's a collective effort rather than, can you imagine the drain of always having this responsibility to fight for the Kenyan people without a public office? Years, decades of that. I can't even imagine such a life. But definitely, I would say that it's not easy. It's definitely something that even his own family, I'm sure, has suffered because they have had to share him with the Kenyan people. His time, his energy, his youth. And that's something that, you know, young people, we take that for granted in terms of that fighting consistently, that discipline. People will go online and, you know, have fury on an issue and then it dissipates. But this is something that continued. We've seen laws changing and it has also encouraged other people to enter politics. I wouldn't say perfectly. It's still a struggle because you would have to get his endorsement to be able to survive in his political party. So that's not a democracy. So like we said, there are some good and there are also a number of flaws as well.
We are getting to that phase where we're going to look now at just how much of a blow is this to Kenya's democratic space. But then again, Nerima Wako, you were part of the frontliners during the initial Gen Z protest and subsequent ones. Following his handshake with President William Ruto and joining this broad-based government as one of the partners, the Gen Z never really embraced that part of it. And I would want to imagine that maybe there's a sense where the Gen Z never understood Raila so well Do you find that at some point it was a case of mistaken identity, especially after his handshake with President William Ruto?
What I believe happened was a clash of generations, because this is not the first handshake that he had done. We've seen him do this with previous presidents before. But what's different is the young people. I think that we're at a point in our histories where it's not just Kenyan Gen Zs that are questioning democracy. It's a global challenge where people, they're wondering, what is politics? You know, we negotiate with power, but for who? You know, who do you represent?
I get it.
And so for many young people, they felt that they just wanted the president to do his job. They still want the president to do his job. And it's not about really just peace amongst tribes or peace amongst having certain people in power. It wasn't. Like, the Gen Zs were not asking for a seat at the table. They were just asking for distribution to be fair. They didn't want to really be at the table. They just wanted systems to work. They just wanted to have access to opportunities. They just wanted this president to do his job. They didn't think that the handshake was necessary. And so what that created is it diverted things. It diverted energies. But now we are going to see how the president is going to maneuver.
I'm curious to understand that.
Because now he won't have anybody to shake hands with. He won't have anybody to negotiate with. He must perform.
Zero political insurance that he was enjoying from Raila.
Absolutely. And this time around, and I keep saying, these young people, they are going to come out and they are going to make sure they participate. They won't have this influence or sway, someone coming in and swaying them in numbers to encourage them. That's gone. Are we going to see that again? I don't know. Sometimes we're only able to see it in a lifetime. I don't know if we're going to be able to ever see that again.
But if history of Kenyan politics is to bear us witness, Neruma Wako, we've had countless people who've rose to power, all thanks to the sympathy vote they gained following these or that unfortunate moments. We're talking about close allies to Raila Odinga who are still actively in elective politics. Don't you think that maybe that could be a factor to their re-election in 2027?
No, I don't. And I say this because there's genuinely a generational shift in our politics. And even the way the party formation itself, you can't even think of some of the most vocal noises or voices. We can talk about Sifuna, for instance. He was being fought by his own party at some point. Babu Owino, he was being fought by his own party at some point. So I would only see that working when there are proxies or there's an encouragement of even a sense of apprenticeship where someone is being mentored to grow, and you're seeing that positioning, it's visible. That has not happened. It has not happened, and what we're going to witness is a struggle. Even if we were to talk about the people who are currently in united opposition, they have relied so much on the presence of Honorable Raila Odinga. So now, without him, what is your politics? Without him, what are you?
Their strategy is just scuttled.
No, because remember, our politics is very used to insults, stereotyping. We do not vote for this person because they are. That's what our politics has been built upon. But the politics that young people are trying to push or working on pushing is on issues. It's on opportunities. They want policies. They want to understand budgets. They want to know how is resource. It's the real stuff.
Beyond the name calling.
Beyond the name calling. It's the real stuff. There are younger people asking real questions, and they are not going to fall for the usual, storytelling, insults, and going in vernacular and making grand promises, because we've just come from an administration that made huge promises.
Lofty promises.
Yes, and we've seen them to fail. So this politics this time around is going to be slightly different. I think it's also going to encourage a lot of new voices, a lot of fractions, but that diversity is what builds democracy. Yeah.
Talking about democracy, Nerima Wako, truth be told, Raila Odinga has been sort of a permanent fixture in Kenyan politics, and it's even hard for you to imagine Kenyan politics without him. But now that we're talking about democracy, if also history is to bear us witness one more time, our democracy oftentimes has been built around individuals. And take into account individuals can be fleeting human beings. So then again, with the exit of Raila Odinga, do you think Kenya's democratic space is finally getting that shift from personalities defining our democracy to now strong ideologies?
I hope so. I believe so. I think this is the moment for us to choose to turn. I believe that this is the opportunity for us to make that decision and not to choose to go back to our usual politics. I feel that it's fresh enough. You know, when you have people coming to Kenya to learn from us, even when you see the reports of protests in different countries, a lot of them will say that they are mimicking what happened in Kenya.
Madagascar is the latest.
Imagine. So if the countries looked at us and learned from us, then they're going to be looking at us again in terms of what decisions are you going to make in terms of participation, in terms of elections, in terms of voting. What are you going to do? So I do believe that Kenya is at that point. We have to believe that we're at that point. The rest of the world does, but we have to believe in ourselves in terms of we can change how we do our politics.
All right, fair enough. Nerima, truth be told, you are very active in Kenya's political discourse. And one element that is fascinating about Raila Odinga is that oftentimes you would see him turn his back on the crowd and just lead this political orchestra, which is what is expected of many. And he did that successfully enough. But then again, for current crop of leaders, how easy or hard is it for them to shut the noise and just maintain that eagle vision that you're talking about on our last edition?
Oh, it's very, very difficult. I believe that that stamina is something that has to be built over time. And I also think that we are raised in a generation where we see a lot of toxicity very early, just because of, say, for social media, you can see a lot of insults, negativity at a very young age. And so when it comes to dealing with some of these, I find that we tend to lash out sooner and faster. But over time, especially as you get older, and even me, mingling with senior politicians, they're always like, you have to have tough skin, you have to have iron skin, because of how the public perceives you as soon as you become a public figure.
Who is this girl anyway?
Yeah, and even questioning, she's talking so much, why is her hair like that?
She hasn't seen much in this world,
It's a lot. But it's one of those things where I believe over time, you get used to it and you even dismiss it. It becomes a part of life. But I think that this has taken decades of political engagement for senior politicians to be able to be fine with it. And I think younger politicians, you know, I don't want to name names because people dropped out of races because of... before the race even began. There are young people out here who have dropped out before the race has even begun. We have to understand that part of politics is criticism. And there's a saying my mom used to tell me so much, you're not going to leave a place because you make other people uncomfortable. Never leave a place because you make other people uncomfortable. Yes, what you need to do is to sit comfortably. If that person is so uncomfortable with you, let them leave. So if people are always on your timelines insulting you, they're not uncomfortable with you. They have come to sit next to you to watch what you're doing to make sure that they insult you. You never leave. You never leave the space. And so that was a huge lesson for me as a teenager, and I continue to use it today.
However much your aura intimidates the people around you, it's never a factor for you.
It's not my problem. It's not my problem. The people can leave the room if they are that uncomfortable.
That's a great lesson I'm gonna use.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they say this boy with a truthful smile, what is he telling us on camera anyway? Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, okay.
Welcome to my channel. They're the ones who are there.
Yeah, I know.
They can leave. Yeah.
They are fans in denial anyway. Nerima, if we were to circle back and look at some of the outstanding contributions from Raila Odinga to Kenya's democratic space, and if we were to rope in one of the key constitutional amendments, the repealing of Section 2A of the Constitution way back during Moi era, that was a major milestone for the country. But then again, beyond just that particular amendment, which other one do you think really stood out for you so far?
There's so many. I mean, I would have to say even our constitution at the moment, even though it's currently being violated, I'd have to say the fact that public participation is a huge element of our laws. Can you imagine we're one of those countries where, you know, decisions have to be shared with the public and they have to participate, even though we are struggling with the element of what is good participation, just that element of direct power, even to the people still, when you have representatives in houses, still exists, to me is something that's quite futuristic. I would also say even the involvement of young people. You know, I normally tell people other countries don't have articles that focus on youth. The fact that we even have specific programs that are supposed to cater to young people, access to even education, employment, health, water, housing is within our constitution. I mean, I think it's only India that even has environment in their constitution. And so it's so forward-thinking. We as a people are so forward-thinking, and I truly feel that we're blessed to be Kenyan. And it's unfortunate that sometimes we have members who violate the law, but I would say that the fact that you can have a citizen, any citizen, petition and go to court and win in court.
Nerima versus the Republic.
I'm telling you that, I mean, and these are the fights, you know, that the likes of Honorable Raila Odinga were part of, that we have today, you know. We joke about taking cases to the Supreme Court, but I tell you, there are countries you can't even walk to the Supreme Court. You can't even imagine petitioning an election. But in Kenya, you can. You know, that's something that I am so proud to be able to say we have. And, you know, and I pray we continue to fight to make sure that we always have it and to continue with that energy that started years ago.
All right. Nerima, you've actually gone on record in this particular program and talked about when that time comes for Baba to bow out of Kenyan politics or to exit the scene, then there will be many political obituaries that will be written for his allies and even people beyond the Raila's camp. But so far, who do you think is off that hook, even now with the demise of Raila Odinga? Do you have one or two in mind that even with this happening, their stars are still aligned?
I believe the younger politicians are going to move through this a lot easier than senior politicians. There are people who should be just thinking about their retirement, like Orengo. There are people who...
Come on, Nerima. Aren't you writing him off way too early?
Okay, Richie, why are you taking me through this? We know there are people who just need to say, politics, you've been great. You know, let me reflect on my life, you know, and what I've managed to do, the friendships I've had, you know. I think, honestly, this burial will be a moment of reflection for many of his peers. And they'll be
Curtains are going to fall for some?
Aye, for very many. For very many.
Including some who've been appointed to the current broad-based government? Do you see that probably being their last appointment to any sitting government?
Absolutely. There are some drug lords in there that just need
Come on, Nerima. Statement of fact from you?
Drug lords are there. We know there are drug lords in our cabinet.
Some would say you are now becoming a student of Rigathi Gachagua School of Politics.
But they are there. I mean, we have seen reports, we have seen pictures of them standing next to drug dealers. I mean, put two and two together. Your friends, your friends say a lot about you. birds of a feather flock together. That's a very common saying.
Drug lords in our cabinet?
Yes. I mean, there are some who they are surviving under certain protections that now you'll be like, enyewe, why? So I think that the younger politicians are going to be able to scale through this a lot easier because they're going to be new voters. They're going to be people who have never participated in an election, even some who are in their 30s and they want to participate now. And they're looking for people to be able to vote for. They're going to be looking for peers. They're going to be looking for people that they can identify with. They're going to be looking for people that they can relate with.
The Salacias of this time.
You just had to throw that in there.
Come on, Erin.
He seems to be liked by some people. So yeah, so he will have his own fan base. They will vote for him. But older generations are going to struggle because voters are getting younger and younger. Your peers are the minority of the vote. So that's something that they will have to come to terms with. That's going to be their reality. So everyone in the next election is going to be speaking Gen Z, trying to be Gen Z, dancing like Gen Z, dressing like Gen Z.
Even boomers?
Even boomers.
Dancing and dressing like Gen Zs?
Mark my words. Mark my words. Wearing jackets like yours, for sure.
Anything for the vote?
We will see a lot of that. People are going to try and look younger and act younger because they realize they must connect with this generation that is going to be able to sway the vote.
And you're here for it all?
I am here for it.
So Nerima, we're having just a general conversation around the contribution of Raila Odinga so far and also what his demise means to us. But one thing that really stood out about him was that he was a diplomat par excellence. If his friend list, international friend list, is anything to go by. We have seen President Ruto really try to court friends from the West and just across the continent. But some would argue he's not ascended to that pan-Africanist level stature that Raila has enjoyed all this while. What do you think is now the missing link between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto when it comes to just having building this continental person or global figure that people really find charming enough?
You also have to think about the times. There are times when countries were going through civil wars, even in our region itself, and how Honorable Raila Odinga was part of peace brokerage from Zimbabwe, to Ethiopia, to South Sudan, Congo. I mean, the list is endless. And he's someone who was very well respected, still is. And this is also going to be a hurt in terms of people really feeling the pain of his passing, not just Kenyans. He holds a certain regard on the continent and in the world. And again, this is something that takes years to build. This is not something that you wake up and you are suddenly, because of what you said on a screen, we support a particular country, then you expect to be able to have the same badge of honor. No, this is someone who traveled to these countries, who personally sat in rooms for days.
Beyond speeches?
Yes, beyond speeches. There was a lot of backdoor diplomacy that he was a part of. He made sure that he would sit in rooms supporting negotiation. He was a mediator. And he was someone who was able to do that so naturally. And he gained a lot of respect. And so that's not the same that we can say about our current president. Just because you say things in certain speeches and do things, it's very, very different. We also forget that this is also when Museveni was a lot younger. And he wasn't the dictator that he is today, but he also used to support the East Africa community a lot. A lot of the budget for the East Africa community came from Uganda. Uganda paid for that. And even when you talk about South Africa with apartheid, I mean, there are so many things that happened in our past for him to be able to gain that badge. But right now you're talking about a president who's been president for 3 years. I mean, what can he do in those 3 years? And what has he been a part of? He's been, gallivanting, traveling quite a bit, looking for aid, looking for resource for country, yes, sometimes it's personal interest, but when you talk about caring about our neighbors, that's a completely different reputation. When we're having RSF, you know, even in our country, completely, we cannot compare the two.
We cannot
They cannot be
compare
put on
the
the
two.
same scale. No.
I get it. Nerima, you've often argued that even for you to toss yourself to elective politics, you need to just summon a sense of unbridled courage. Oftentimes, Raila Odinga espoused that. And case in point, even to the run-up of 2022 general elections, many had just thought that it is something that anyone can see is going to pick Kalonzo Musyoka to be his running mate. He went for Martha Karua. And these were just some of the acts of courage and open defiance that many had not foreseen of Raila Odinga. So for current crop of leaders, and I go back there one more time, to summon such kind of courage and even just set in unprecedented grounds, how much does it take?
You know, you bring up an important point. I think also it's courage, and there's something else. I normally share one thing that we need to learn is the thing senior politicians have done is even with differences, they're able to come together. That is shocking to me. It's shocking to me. Like, I think seeing young people, you can insult each other online and then umekosana kabisa. Like, you're like, I cannot.
My sworn enemy, that one.
Yeah.
Me and Nerima, not in the same sentence.
Never. But as we have watched Gideon Moe and Ruto hug, you know what I mean?
Actually, that was to be a conversation until this unfortunate incident.
You know what I mean? So that's quite something in terms of they do not have permanent enemies. And this is something to learn, because when you talk about how, you know, in 2022, he went with Martha Karua and not Kalonzo. Let me tell you, if he was alive, we would have seen him being friends and shaking hands with Kalonzo. I have no doubt.
One more time.
I have no doubt in my mind. And that's something that we can definitely learn. This element of when it comes to the overall goal, we will come as a united front. Like, we will put our differences aside, even though we were hurt by certain decisions, we'll put them aside. But sometimes it has been at the detriment. We've still seen people die and not be compensated, and they are friends. And so sometimes I wish that even though there's that unity, you know, there's someone, a colleague of mine, he's actually from Sudan. He said it's only in Kenya where you guys can have people insulting each other on podiums, politicians, and then the next thing you're seeing them greeting, having tea together and laughing. He was like, in my countries or other countries that I've seen, when people are at that level of insulting each other, they take it a step notch, you know, higher, and there it is conflict. You know, we do not come down to okay, let's be friends. He's like, Kenyans are a special breed, and I think that that's something that we can learn, not to the detriment of loss of life or people being put at the front line and their lives being taken or at risk. I think the united front for the overall goal is something that young people can learn from older politicians.
Nerima Wako, I mean, something that seemingly is the reality in Kenya, supporters of this or that political candidate oftentimes bear the brunt of the loss more than even those who are running for office, because they gave it their all even without a cent just to support these people. And many have ended up depressed, and especially the Gen Zs. You've talked about betrayal here and there, and really it hits them hard. But then again, from what you've just said initially, does that then rubber stamp Mandagos, I mean, two cents when it comes to Kenyan politics? Usieke kwa roho, weka tu kwa lungs, unakohoa inatoka. Otherwise ni wewe utaumia.
Ni wewe utaumia. You know, politics, there are two things that I normally say that get emotive. No, actually three. And politics is one of them. Sports is another. Where unachapa mtu juu.
Manchester United.
I'm lost. You're just like, what madness is this? Sports is another craziness out there. The other one is religion. Where? Like
Shakahola kidogo.
Once mtu ameingia, you cannot, like, once they're in a cult, like that, you have lost that person.
Nerima is a devil worshipper. She's taking concern with my prophet, calling him false prophet.
I can watch and nisicheke. There are people in that reality. For real. Richie. There are people, you know, there are prophets in this country we cannot insult because they'll come with their droves.
Yeah. A whole brigade.
Hey, you just see your account shutting down.
Yeah.
Because of something you said about a prophet.
Hashtag defund
Waka
siasa
wanafagia
place.
barabara na omo. Anyways, so those three. Politics can be quite emotive as well. But I find it riskier because politics can affect our daily lives, right? Like, depending on who sits at that state house, the decisions that are made. Remember, this week as well, there are 8 bills that were assented, okay?
Surprising.
8 very important decisions that were assented within this period as well. So, and I feel that's a different type of emotion. Because, you know, with football, you can stay there with your football. I don't have to be a fan. I don't have to watch the game. It doesn't really affect me. The same with religion. Like, you can stay there with your cult. Like, ni wewe umechagua. Unaweza kaa hapo kama unataka. But politics, my friend, the decisions that are made there do affect me. And that's why I feel like it brings a different kind of violence. And this is a violence that can come to my doorstep, because if someone chooses that they are only going to support a particular community, if someone uses instruments of power to oppress, if someone, it's a completely different kind of ball game. And for me, my concern is the violation of and mistreatment of public office. I think as young people, we must hold leaders accountable to holding the office. That is important. It's not about personalities. It's not about individuals. It's about the office. And I feel that this is something that we can teach children, our children, to be able to uphold. And we would be living out our national anthem.
It makes sense. Nerima Wako, many people are curious to understand, following the demise of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, of course there's a political vacuum, not just from the Luo community, but countrywide when it comes to opposition and just holding the government to account. But then again, there's a figure within the Odinga's family who, of course, is going to ascend to that role, that is Oburu Odinga. But then again, from your optics, Nerima Wako, do you think that's going to be more of a Sisyphus task, a Herculean task for him to just fit very well in the shoes of Raila Odinga and hit the ground running henceforth?
No one can fit in his shoes. I don't think anyone should try to. I think that family should just take a break. Yeah, as simple as that. I think they should. I think that this is something of such huge magnitude, and there's some unnecessary pressure. I'm sure there are people who are encouraging them to, who is going to take over, who's going to. I think as a family, they should just reflect on themselves and for once think about themselves. And yeah, I think that's important, because at the end of the day, it's of whose interest. I think that family, not only did, Honorable Raila serve, he served with his family. Like I shared with you, when you talk about politics, it's not just about that individual who's running. It's the wife, it's the children, their lifestyles. Everything changes because of you. And I think that sometimes it's okay to just have moments of solitude. I don't think it is always necessary to constantly be at the forefront. I mean, even soldiers get tired. Sometimes it's okay to just take a break. And I mean, people will be like, oh, why is she saying that? Shame on her, da, da, da. But I strongly believe that Kenya has brilliant people. We're 50 million plus. Leaders will rise when opportunities come. I think that there is no Superman or Superwoman. I believe that collectively we will find our own leaders.
Sorry for interjecting, because at some point I understand people thought that they'd seen the last with Tom Mboya or Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. But just like the phoenix, Raila Odinga rose from the ashes. So it just goes to rubber stamp your thought that beyond Raila Odinga, it is not lost for Kenya or even the Luo community.
No. It's not. I believe that people will rise, and people will rise on the backs of giants, on the shoulders of giants. And this is what, like, I keep telling young people, there are people who are like, celebrating and all that. And I'm like, you do not understand. You do not understand. Not everybody is perfect, but there are things he has done for us, even before our very existence. And you cannot diminish that effort. So because of those actions, you are here today, you can celebrate. Just our neighbors, there are things that you can't say about the president.
True.
That we can.
Our immediate neighbors around
Our
here.
neighbors, just unavuka tu boda hivi. There. Our neighbors. So, and it's because of those efforts.
Hapa tu kando ya Busia.
Hey, umefika home. Yeah. And so I'm just telling, people, you have to look at it that way and give credit where it's due. So to be able to look at a lifespan of political engagement of 60 years plus and just minimize it to the last 3 years.
It's unfair.
It's unfair.
Much as history is written from the lenses of the writer, that would be unfair.
It's unfair because there are contributions that have been made that even have allowed me, to even be here. Even you, to have these platforms.
Without being abducted.
Yes. Yes. And that is such a strong element. These are examples of the phoenixes that are rising from the ash. And so to be able to see it in your lifetime, I think for me, that's such a huge achievement to be able to say, look at young Kenyans, look at what they did, look at what they continue to do, what they speak out for, and for other countries to be looking at us. That is such a monumental moment. And even our own constitution, how many countries have tried to mimic laws similar to ours? I'll give you, Nigeria, even with the youth, they've done that. South Africa, they've done that. Malawi, when we even had the first 2017 election and we went to the Supreme Court, Malawi did the same thing a year later. So there are so many countries that look up to us and we're trendsetters, and it's because of people like Raila Odinga paving those paths that we are able to do even more and push those boundaries.
All right, fair enough, Nerima. Third last. Clearly, Raila Odinga is one leader who carried a sense of country in every crowd that he was part of, in every room that he entered. And that could be the missing link with our current crop of leaders. And not that I'm trying to throw shade to them, but they have not really ascended to that height whereby you can say it's the priorities that come first. It's the priority of the nation that comes first. So clearly, to just be on that roadmap to achieve the same whereby if I see Nerima, I see nationalism, I see a sense of pride and deep cherish for the country, where does that journey start from?
When I was way younger, I used to be so proud, I'm still proud, of seeing Kenyan athletes. When you see your flag and then they win because we always win. And you see them running with the flag, I would be like, man, I'm so proud to be Kenyan. Because that's one flag, people would always associate with marathons or medals. And then another time is, unfortunately, in crisis, when you see Kenyans coming up for Kenyans.
True.
That's amazing, that sense of community where we will contribute. By the way, Kenyans contribute. Sometimes even people have conned us, coming up with an issue, and people will freely give. Even if it's 50 shillings, they will contribute. That, to me, is nationhood, where we have this sense of, that's my brother, that's my sister, and I want to be able to do something to help them do it. And with the people, it's there. I don't know what happens when people become elected. It's like they just switch off, and all of a sudden it becomes about me.
Primitive accumulation of wealth. It's all about me.
Yeah, me. Yet, we've all been brought up in community. A lot of us have gone through school because of chamas. People have managed to be raised because of churches. Like, it's community setups, these clusters that have raised a lot of children now to adults. So I believe we still carry that form of nationhood. What we need is leaders that continue to encourage it and embody it. We don't see the embodiment of
Not just talking about it.
No, we don't see the embodiment at all. And I know, like, it's Uhuru who used to wear these bracelets.
A lot of the time.
He started, but now it has become culture, you know, like where we're like, even now young people are like, no, me I care for my country, me I care for my flag. And I think that that's an amazing turnaround in what, a span of 10 years, where he used to wear them alone, and now the people are the ones wearing them, and not just in Kenya, around the world. You're seeing
Paradigm
people,
shift.
Yes, that shift for me shows you that nationhood exists. And there was even a time I was in Denmark, actually. I had gone for a conference, and someone saw me with this bracelet, and she's from Uganda. And she walked up to me and she said, Kenyans, you guys just make us happy. Like the way you do your thing. They're like, you have no idea how we just watch you like, that's the sibling, yani. They're just on their own, and you just let them be free. And we look up to it. We look up to you. And I believe that we are a beacon of hope. So we just hope that our political leaders embody it.
So that we can become that Singapore of Africa, so that Uganda can even look more towards us.
Absolutely. We have to do it to the next election. We have to kick out these people who don't embody nationhood.
Nerima, second last. Well, Raila Odinga, of course, has been granted, state decorum around his demise and even his final internment. And this is something that truly we all have to give credit to the government of today. And this kind of accord was granted to people like the late Wamalwa Kijana, giants, icon from the past. So on this particular pursuit, you sitting there happy that finally we've given him the honor that he deserves. Is that your thought?
Yes, I believe he does deserve the honor. I do think that it's interesting dynamic. You know, there was a point where, let's talk about our history, where it was even difficult for Jomo Kenyatta to even be in Kisumu, you know?
True.
And imagine in less than 100 years, we've managed to recognize or even shift our politics to where there is no that sense of animosity. And I hope that it never comes back, where we are questioning and harming one another because of tribe. I pray that never comes back. And I'm proud of this generation that's not tribalist. But I do say that it's a moment where I'm glad that the government is recognizing and giving us these days of mourning to be able to recognize him and also give him, you know, the time that he deserves for us to learn. I know there are a lot of young people learning about Honorable Raila right now because they are now going through his history, what he has managed to do. A lot of them know him as the protester. They know him as Mandamano. They know him as fighting injustice, but they do not understand the diplomatic side of him. They do not understand the political shifts that he made in terms of even multi-partyism, the walkout of KANU. They do not understand that he was the beginning of walkouts, the formation of other parties, and how his footprints has been part of multi-partyism. They don't. And they will get to see that side now. And it's unfortunate that it's now when he's gone. But I do think that we encourage to be able to celebrate different voices. And I'm happy that we're able to do that. Because remember, this was our opposition leader.
True.
Our opposition leader for decades, and now receiving state recognition.
I get it. Nerima, of course, it hit me hard when I was met with this news of the demise of Raila Odinga. It hit his family harder.
Yeah.
But this morning, it just cut deep within me when I now saw one of his aides, Ogeta, just break down. And oftentimes we look at people around these icons that we celebrate, and sometimes I think we don't appreciate them good enough. When you see Nerima, you forget the PA, you forget that person who makes tea for you at Siasa Place. Even for Kenyans now, at just a personal level, would you say that beyond these figures to celebrate, it's oftentimes a team effort, just beyond them?
Yeah, it's a huge team effort. You know, a mountain can only have a peak because of the base. A lot of times we'll see the person at the peak and we forget they're standing on an entire base of people that support for you to be at that peak. And there are going to be people who feel lost, you know, because their lives have revolved around this individual for many, many, many years. And they are going to feel like, what's my identity now? What does my identity look like? There are people now questioning their political identity. Because do you remember during the referendum, people would say, kama baba amesoma, mi nimesoma. Baba
Sihitaji kusoma. Baba akisema left ni left, akisema right ni right.
Now imagine those people, they're like, where do I go? So there's even this political identity that's going to feel lost until they find out what it means now beyond, you know? And I think it's one of those things where it happens. It's the cycle of life. But I do believe and I pray, you know, condolences to the family, to friends, because this is something that is not going to be easy to even get over. The country will move on in a few weeks, but then it'll stay for years and years and years.
Finally, Nerima, at a personal level, just a personal moment, in 2022, I think a month after the elections, that was around October. And that was my first time meeting Raila Odinga one-on-one, up close and personal. They are 3D, just closed door meeting. And of course, I was this child looking up to this icon and you see him like a demigod. And I was expecting to meet the Raila that I see in the rallies, just that same character and element. But in that room, you just see him morph into more of a father figure. And it's just not the Raila you see in the rallies, more of just father-son relationship. And I'm curious to understand, did you have sort of that personal moment with Raila, and just how was it like?
Several, let me tell you. There were times there are 2 times actually, where as young people we had even come up with a manifesto and we're like, we're going to go and meet Raila and we're going to make sure we talk to him and you know, we need to include young people. And then he enters the room, you are forgotten.
It happened to me. I had this entire list of what I want to tell Babam. He just comes from the washrooms and I'm there, I go completely blank at the aura and his presence.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Because it has happened twice.
That was me.
Yeah. The second time, it's like you've prepared.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be the second one. Alafu wewe utakuja na conclusion.
Initial
so
pitch is Nerima.
Yeah. Alafu tukimaliza tuchukue like a group photo.
Yeah.
We keep it. Let me tell you, as soon as he walked into the room, people are like, wow! We were doing selfies. Like, you're doing selfies.
Yeah.
Then he gave us a story. You're so excited.
Yeah.
Time imeisha.
You remember your agenda once you're outside the door.
Yeah. So yes, his aura did that to you. And you just felt like, oh my goodness, I'm around my dad. All of a sudden, you're even confused.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes you walk into that room angry, like, I must tell Baba this. I am not happy. He comes on board, you completely freeze and you're smiling, being told about Kadenge, the legendary footballer.
Yeah.
But anyway, those were funny moments and interesting ones. So we pass our condolences to the family as we bring this particular edition to a wrap. Of course, a special edition. I get to do this in the Rima every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. But because of this unfortunate incident, we had to give him our flowers today on this particular program. Nerima, your closing remarks and just your word of solace to the family, to the supporters, to people from Bondo. There's a child who's now going to be told about Raila Odinga. What's your message to them?
No, we are definitely grieving today, and condolences to the family, friends, to Kenya. And as we go through this moment of grief, it's also to celebrate a life that was lived as he transitions into the next life.
All right. There you have it. That has been our conversation today, honoring the legacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, our former Prime Minister. God rest his soul in eternal peace. You've heard it from Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Place. We do this again next week, Majaliwa. Same place, of course, 7:30 p.m. on Saturdays. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.